Hello, I'm Mars and I make music, and you might have seen me playing the Omnichord, which is this interesting looking thing, and I get a lot of questions about it. What is that thing and how does it work and where can I get one? So I thought I'd make a little video to just answer as many of those questions as I can. So without further ado, let's get right into it. So what is it? The Omnichord is basically a really dreamy and ethereal synthesizer inspired by the auto harp, and it was first made in 1981 by the Japanese electronics company Suzuki. Now, although the Omnichord might seem like a little bit of an obscure instrument, it has been used by a lot of really famous composers and musicians over the years, like Devo and Cyndi Lauper, and David Bowie used it in a lot of his live shows and performances. And a big one I think a lot of you will know is Adventure Time. Rebecca Sugar uses the Omnichord to compose a lot of her music. Another really big one is Clint Eastwood by the Gorillaz. It uses the Omnichord as a really driving rhythmic force throughout that song. There have been lots of different models made over the years, so I'll go into a little bit more detail about those now. We'll start off with the OM27, which is the first Omnichord that Suzuki released. It's got 27 buttons, as the name suggests, 6 different rhythms, and a strum plate, and it's a really lovely analog toned instrument. However, it is definitely limited on what you can play. You can only play one button at a time. It hasn't got an F sharp, a D flat, or an A flat, so again, it is quite limiting, but if you're a real vintage instrument enthusiast, it's a real treat to play. It's got a lovely, lovely tone. And after the OM27, Suzuki released 2 more models, the OM36 and the OM84. And these are both still completely analog, and the OM84 also has a chord memory interface and a keyboard built in. After those 3 first models, Suzuki moved the Omnichord into being analog and digital, which definitely has its pros and cons. So there were 5 preceding models: the OM100, the OM200, OM150, OM250, and the OM300. So the benefits of these models is definitely the fact that you can change the strum plate voicings, and they have more buttons. There's a lot more you can do to customize the sound of the instrument, so if that's something that you like, these might be the models for you. The OM200, OM250, and the OM300 also all have MIDI outputs, so that makes them really accessible for recording. They also have adjustable vibrato, which is quite cool. The only downside I would say about these models is that it feels as though they lose the analog tone of the first 3, but of course that's a personal preference. If you are more into the digital sound and the customizable sounds, then these models might be really good for you. So as mentioned earlier, I own the OM27, which is the first model, and I also own the Q-Chord, which is the latest model. And I have to say, with my personal preference, I definitely prefer the OM27, but I do also really like the Q-Chord. They definitely have different pros and cons. I love the Q-Chord because it has a lot more button options, and I also like the customizable sounds, and you can change the vibrato. This one also has a pitch bender, so that can be quite funky. But at the end of the day, it's all up to personal preference for the one that you like the most. I'm just more into the OM27 because I really cherish the analog tone. Another question I get is, how do you play it? So it's actually really simple. As you can see, on all Omnichords there are 3 rows of buttons: major, minor, and sevenths. And on later versions you can press 2 buttons at once to get major sevenths, minor sevenths, augmented, and diminished chords. And you basically just press the chord that you like, and that gives you the low hum. And then to activate the strum plate, you just press anywhere you like. Again, the rhythm section is very simple. You just press the button and you can adjust the tempo and volume. You can also change the low hum to be more rhythmic by pressing the auto bass. And that's the basics of how you play it. And this is something that I really love about the Omnichord. It's an extremely accessible instrument for people who aren't necessarily musically inclined or who are a bit wary about picking up an instrument, because in my opinion you can't play anything that sounds necessarily bad. It's all harmonized and it can't go out of tune. It's a really low maintenance instrument. It's very portable, and I definitely recommend it for beginners or advanced players who just want that analog dreamy tone in their music. So I think one of the biggest questions I get asked is, where can I get one? And unfortunately, Omnichords aren't actually made anymore, so you can only buy them secondhand. But don't worry, I'm gonna give you some tips and advice about that. So as I mentioned before, you have to get them secondhand because they're not made anymore. So I would recommend websites such as eBay, Reverb, Gumtree, or Craigslist if you live in America. Another option is the Nashville Omnichord Supply, and that's a shop based in Nashville that repairs old Omnichords that are broken or just refurbishes them and then resells them. So that's a really good shop, and they also sell really cute Omnichord merch, so I'll link them below and you can check them out. And another thing is the price. Omnichord prices have been rising more and more and more over the years, and it's basically because of supply and demand. There are a lot of people who want Omnichords, but there are not a lot of Omnichords, so people charge a lot of money. So prices tend to range from around £200 to, I've seen up to £800 or £900, but there is ways of getting over this. So the way I got my OM27, I actually bought a broken one for around £25, and I repaired it myself with my very basic knowledge of circuitry and a soldering iron. And the only thing I'd say about this is be careful, because all of the Omnichords will have their own unique issues if they're broken, so some of them may or may not be fixable, so I'd definitely be very wary. But there are lists for Omnichord repair shops and also synth repair shops that could potentially help you in this, so I will try to link some below. So this is definitely a good alternative for if you want to buy an Omnichord but you don't necessarily want to break the bank. So my main piece of advice would be to save up a good amount of money and then scour all of the online websites regularly to try and find a good deal for the Omnichord model that you want. Or you can ask your grandma, because she might have one up in the loft, you never know. So I hope this video has helped to answer some of your Omnichord related questions, and if there's anything that I've missed, please feel free to comment it below and I'll try to answer as many questions as I can. I will also link some information and resources below. There's a really great website where you can play the Omnichord online if you don't necessarily want to buy one, so I'll link that below because it's just really fun. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope this has helped, and to finish off, I'm going to play some clips from some of my absolute favorite Omnichord creators, and I will link them all below, so please check them out. They are all so amazing, and I hope you have a great day.
I think it's also really easy for people to kind of have this feeling that they are the art that they create, and like you are the things that you consume, which isn't true at all. You can exist alongside the art that you make. You also don't have to do anything.